I just want to talk about this issue, and we're talking to Ran Yaakoby, the ambassador for Israel, who leaves New Zealand today, and he's got a replacement coming early in the new year. And what was it, October the 7th last year, 2023, the terrible terrorist attacks launched into southern Israel from the Gaza Strip. And the Israelis were caught napping, and it was an horrendous attack which has had massive ramifications in the world. And that part of the world has very much been in flux and a focus. In Wellington yesterday, a bunch of people grabbed Palestinian flags that they'd bought presumably from John Minto and marched through the streets, shouting from the river to the sea and whatever they do. And I saw a wonderful quote yesterday that said, do those people think anything they do, that feeling like they're rebels and waving their flags and wearing their keffiyehs is going to make any difference to the real world or what happens in the Middle East? And the resounding response from X and social media was, of course not. But, and Chris Trotter mentioned this rather eloquently. He said, I thought anti-Semitism was dead in New Zealand. I'm not sure from what I've seen that it is dead. I wish it was, and it's something I, to be honest, grew up in New Zealand just not even really being aware of. In the midst of all this, the Israeli embassy has been vandalised a number of times, and I would say our government hasn't always acted with the moral clarity that it could have in regards this issue. So I thought today would be a good day on his last day in New Zealand to talk to the Israeli ambassador Ran Yaakoby and ask him to reflect on his posting to New Zealand and tell us what's happening in his country. Ambassador, lovely to have you with us. Welcome to the platform.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for the listeners and viewers.
All right. You're heading home today, is it? You jump on the plane today?
No, it will be beginning of next week.
Okay, beginning of next week. How would you describe your time in New Zealand and your posting here?
In one sentence, never a dull moment.
Yeah.
Maybe in a wider spectrum, I've come directly into quarantine the end of 2020 in December. I'm leaving December exactly 4 years later. This is the term of an Israeli diplomat here. 2 years of COVID, a few months of normal work, and then all hell broke loose on the October 7th last year, and where I've been mainly focusing on that here at the embassy and, of course, in Israel and around the world.
Mm. Do you believe New Zealand has responded appropriately and as a friend should to those attacks?
Oh, that's a complex question, as you are fully aware. Personally, and also up in Jerusalem in the headquarters, we think New Zealand could have done more. We have had a few achievements where New Zealand, I think, and rather later than ever, for example, designated both wings of Hamas, both wings, I mean political and military, of Hezbollah recently, even the Houthis in Yemen, who threaten not only Israel but free trade around the Gulf. And we have heard here and there some public declarations that supported not Israel, the free world. I think Israel is simply a bastion of the free world in the Middle East and should be perceived as such. On the other hand, there have been, under Labour and also recently under the current government, some disappointments that I've shared with my colleagues in MFAT and in other government offices.
Mm. How does your government feel or respond to, for example, municipalities that have no real trading relationship with Israel taking the virtue signalling stand of saying we're going to boycott Israeli companies that deal with illegal settlers in the occupied territories? Because much is made of it by our mainstream news media here. It's a wonderful stand. Does it make any difference? And to be honest, is it even significant enough for your government to have an opinion on?
Maybe it's double or triple folded. First, let's imagine what would the government of New Zealand or its ambassador to Israel, who sits, by the way, in Ankara, thinks about the municipality of, let's say, Haifa or Akko, having an opinion about the Waitangi Treaty.
Good comparison.
Does it make any change? I don't think so. I don't think it would be serious to even discuss it. Municipalities should deal with their own citizens in general. I'm trying not to interfere in internal matters. This is not my job here. But if the councils around New Zealand have done all they could for their citizens, have adjusted the rates, have fixed the roads, there are no leaking pipes, the sewage is well done, the water is clean, and there are no complaints, and they have nothing better to do, they can then opinionate maybe on things that are beyond their reach, understanding, and capacity. I'm not sure people elected the councillors to do that. Also in Israel, they have nothing to do in municipalities with world issues. That's really virtue flagging. And by the way, what does it really mean? People will stop eating fruit and vegetables irrigated by drip irrigation because this is an Israeli invention, or will not eat anymore cherry tomatoes because this is an Israeli development, or use the disk on keys because this was invented in Israel, or use any computer that has Intel inside because Intel, people don't know, is an Israeli company. Settlers also use Intel, by the way. Just think about so many things. Medications for multiple sclerosis that are widely used around the world. Will people stop taking the medications because they were manufactured in Jerusalem or in any other place? I think it's ridiculous, and there's no real way to honestly boycott Israel. It's a matter of convenience, so you don't eat a hummus of one country or a hummus of another company.
How do you feel? How does your government feel when you see MPs in our parliament wearing a keffiyeh, which is a clear signal that they support Hamas, that they are in support of terrorism? How do you feel when the Greens turn up in parliament dressed up like terrorists?
Well, I guess it's more threatening to the Jewish community than to me as an ambassador here. Probably makes them think twice before next election. So do they really want to represent them, and how? And I'm not sure about the depth of understanding of the significance of keffiyehs, what they mean, what is the historical context, what is the cultural context. And as I heard some people saying in the streets when I asked them, it's a fashion thing. Well, supporting terrorism should never be fashion.
You made an interesting observation in that answer, Ambassador. You said it's not threatening to my government or my country, but it is threatening to, I guess, expat Israelis in New Zealand and Jewish people in New Zealand. And I guess part of the conundrum, the complexity of Israel is that it is so often identified with the religion of Judaism, but it is an open democracy that doesn't, and it's a secular democracy. And you say the real impact is on Jewish people in New Zealand. And that is one thing we have.
What I hear in my conversations in Jewish communities around the country, yes.
And there can be no doubt that this trend to support Palestine, and I talked about it with Chris Trotter within the last hour, has had an impact domestically here. And there is no way we can deny there has been a rise in what we would call broadly anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish activity in New Zealand. I don't know if you are comfortable answering this question, We have talked to many members of the Jewish community here who have given their, if you like, testimony as to that. Have your family experienced that in New Zealand?